All right, gang. We got anybody out there? Hey, if we've got any members tuned in, any YouTube land folks, just type a comment. Let us know that we are live and you can hear me. Here we go. All right. First Responder Garage has given us the high five. Hey, First Responder Garage, where are you from? What area of the country? Can you hear me there just fine? Sound is good. Awesome. There's Thomas, Georgia. First Responder for Garage is in Georgia. We're neighbors then. How about you, Thomas? And a channel member. What part of the country are you from, Thomas? Oh, Ireland. Yeah. Man, that's very interesting. We're an international cast today. So if you are just tuning in, my name is Bill Jones, and I am a channel member as well. I have been asked to join in the team here with DV and Andy Wood as a member representative. Aloha from Hawaii. Hello, Kurt. So I am your member representative, and what I'm going to be doing is perusing the comments and questions, which we'll be taking later. We've got a few things we're going to talk about today. We're going to do some updates, some what we've got upcoming, our main topic, open up to the questions, and with, of course, members being a priority. And if you're just joining in, please give us a shout. My name is Bill. I am a channel member and big fan of motorsports, just like you guys. And I was there with the Dyno Challenge this last week, and we just had a big time and got to hang out with the gang. And David and Andy both asked, "Hey, why don't you come over and start hanging out with us in the studio and just, like I say, be a member rep?" So First Responders like the hat. Hey, wish they had a non-Siamese port for small block Chrysler. We do too. And speaking of this, the Mopar guys made a very strong showing at the Dyno Engine Challenge last week. And, which brings up, we were there with DV, and I don't think he quit talking the whole time. And I asked him, and Andy did both. We asked, David, man, you just so animated with everyone. What is going on? You just like coming out of your shell. And David sat down with me earlier today and said, he said, I'm here in the research lab and in the machine shop working isolated all week long. And he said, my outlet is getting around folks that I love to be around that have the same interest, and it enthuses me. VJHCX is back. Hey, man, thanks for joining us. If you're just joining in, let us know where you're from. We would like to get to know you guys better. So anyway, David's letting me know. So, hey, I'm here by myself all week in the research lab, machine shop, working on projects, talking with folks. But I really enjoy being around people and doing these live feeds. And so that is, the time I really just around folks that we love to be around. Not sure 723 greetings. Thank you for joining in. And he has just had a great time with us. He his beautiful dog Casey not with him anymore, and that was his company all week. And so VGHCX from Rome, Italy on vacation, or in Rome, Italy on vacation. So, well, thank you for tuning in on your vacation from Europe. We've got a full international crowd here today. And David, I thought I would just jump in here real quick before David came in from the shop. I think he's in there bouncing around, just working nonstop. And this guy, he's a workaholic. I don't know how he keeps up the energy he's got here, just constantly working. I don't think this guy sleeps, and he loves being around folks that are so passionate. Passion, I think, is a good word. So passionate about the subjects we're all interested in. I know I am, and that's why I was so thrilled to be invited to help out. And let me see if I can round David up. Hey, David, you going to come in from the shop at some point and just help us out here? Or are you going to stay in there all night?
I'm going to be in there soon, Bill. I just got a few bits to tie up here.
Okay.
I'm aligning a manifold.
He is working.
Guys, I'll be in there in a moment.
He is hard at work, guys. So be thinking about later on in the evening here with us today, your questions that you might like to ask, and try to keep it down to one good question each. And I think what we're going to do in the future is I'm going to give you guys an email. David is knocking back a Heineken. I don't think so, but he might be slipping in. Oh, here he comes now. He might be just slipping on a rum and Diet Pepsi. Here, our guest of honor.
Okay, Bill,
David Vizard.
What lies have you been telling about me?
Tell you guys, I've been just pumping him up. Coffee and a glazed donut. That's probably a little bit closer.
I'm doing a manifold alignment that's fighting the heck out of me, right? I must be getting a worse filer as I get older. I'm just aligning the manifold bolts because, you know, if you do a proper alignment, they never align out of the box. Well, no, I say that. They do. Once in 61 years, they aligned. And I'm going to have another one.
First responder just threw up a comment that just had a campground, and he said he used DB and Cattle Dog Garage helped design it. So
cattle, what's it, Garrett? I don't know why the guy called.
Well, you're a dog lover, so you can understand that.
But you know, he does some interesting stuff. He has this ability to assemble lots of little experiments he does into one. Now, this is good to be able to do that. You don't always come to the right conclusion, but that's not because the method was wrong. It's usually because you didn't have enough little bits to assemble. But it's a good way of doing it.
I mean, learning process.
Well, the point is this. He's perpetually thinking about cause and effect.
Right.
And that's what a good racer needs to do all the time.
Experimentation.
Cattle Dog Garage, right? Yes. Go and see it. So, and I think I did this last time we were on Gold's Garage.
Yes.
Right.
Alan Gold.
Alan Gold. Go there.
Traded some emails back and forth, and this guy is a saint. Cool. I don't think anybody's as nice as Alan.
He's a cool guy.
He is absolutely
a cool guy. I've had several calls with him that were supposed to be 5 minutes.
We need to get him down, David.
After an hour and 5 minutes, still on the phone.
We need to get him down here. We've got to get him down
anyway,
here.
Where did you get to telling lies about me?
So I was explaining to them, I noticed, and Andy both, and you know, the rest of the gang at the Dyno Engine Challenge noticed last week, that you were so animated and excited to be there. And I was just explaining to folks that I had spoken with you earlier today and asked you about that. And you were just talking about you're just here in the shop, in the garage, and working isolated all week. And when you have an opportunity to be around like-minded folks that have the same interest, it just really pulls the best out of you.
Look, here's something that so many people assume, right? I wasn't called Vizard the Wizard in England for nothing. However, I do think it's, other than the fact it rhymes with my name, I do think it's a misnomer. That means it doesn't quite describe the situation. Fortunately for me, I've risen to a level where I become mentally or interest compatible with a lot of top engine builders. However, I spend all day on my own.
Right.
Now, when I get to meet these guys, they're virtually clones of me, but they've had slightly different experiences at the level I'm at.
Right.
Right. So there's 12 of them and one of me.
Right.
And if they've got two things to tell me, and I have two things to tell them. Who wins?
I think you might win on that.
Yes,
So
exactly.
You win again.
Like I win again. So here I am. I'm with these guys. When I say they're smart engine builders, what I mean is they're smart engine
They
builders.
absolutely are. I can
Right?
attest to that
They're
for
smart
sure.
engine. Now, the thing is their focus is their engine. So I have to take advantage of them when they're not doing anything, which I pretty much did that, didn't I? Anyone wasn't working on an engine.
You had them
nailed
corralled.
it.
You had them corralled.
I know. I found out what their particular expertise was, and then dug a moat around them so they couldn't escape.
You know, and everyone there, I found, whether they were competing or just there as spectators like me, had something to offer and some unique perspectives. And even if they weren't competing, everyone there was an enthusiast racer. Just because they didn't have an engine there, just like you guys out there, does not mean that they weren't there offering something that we could all take advantage of.
Yep.
So
I have to say, and I think it's just a luck of circumstances or the big guy upstairs taking care of me, right? But I always seem to fall into groups of people who have a lot to offer in terms of the science of what we're doing, right? So, best way to describe it, it's Christmas and I'm like a kid in a toy shop. Yep, would you say that's what
absolutely.
I was like?
Yeah.
Right. Now, somebody said, no, more like a bull in a china shop, but I don't think so. Anyway, what have we got on the list here, Bill?
Well, I was just greeting everyone. Gunnar is just checked in with us from Iceland. I'm assuming that's his name. Aggravated Progressive is here. Lawrence has just chimed in. And guys, if you haven't let us already know, let us know where you're from. We want to get to know you guys. Talk to each other, while you're there. Welcome. When somebody jumps in there, welcome them in. We're all one big happy family here. We're reading the comments as we go. And if you're just tuning in, my name is Bill. We're going to be considered. I've been requested to be here by Andy and David as a channel member representative. Don's here from Payne, Ohio. What we're going to do today, we're going to have and one of the things David and I talked about earlier, I said, we need to have some sort of form of these live deals to where we
need to have some form of these lighting deals.
Yes, we had a little struggle today.
It looks like I'm ghostly here, right? I don't know quite what's happening here, but we couldn't get the adjustment on the lights. You'll see Bill is perfectly lit up, so you can see his outline.
That's my
Brodex sign up.
That's
here,
my farmer stand.
Right? And me, now see if I move over here, like this down here, I'm better lit up. But over here, now when we get the
studio,
done,
we've been working on that. So
it's still a ways off yet, but we've got the second floor in, so all the wires go under the floor.
I will get up with the makeup team and get them get us dolls.
We are approaching, right? So I'm just laying the tiles on the second floor now, and we're almost done with all the ceiling attachments for lights and curtains and all that. Look at that. I put my hand up there. See how much it makes difference to the lighting?
So we're working through this, but the new studio will be coming online soon, we hope. Now, lots of projects going on here.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
And this is a bit, how shall I say, self-interest generating. I saw myself put my hand up there. Of course, we're delayed.
Oh, I'm running the live feed over here too. That's where everybody gets to seeing it.
I don't recall putting my hand up for about 10 seconds, right? Ghost. This is the real broadcast.
We're time travel. We're time travel.
We're actually 5 seconds.
That's how fast we are. So we're ahead of everybody right now.
Yeah, I'd like to be that fast on the racetrack.
Mike's here.
The whole purpose of driving race cars is that you build a race car that can be in two places at once, the start and the finish.
Correct.
right, then you guarantee you've won. Now, the top fuel guys are getting to be close to that, aren't they?
They
And soon, I predict by 2100, we'll be looking at negative ETs. Well, he got to the other end in -2 seconds.
well, we had a negative horsepower and torque on our first
Oh,
run
yeah,
at the
yeah.
data challenge this past week.
Somebody had put the torque arm mechanism upside
Reversed,
down.
yeah, it was reversed. Yes,
Right.
We figured it
So-
out, but we were
so,
scratching.
yeah.
I don't think anybody had ever seen that before.
No,
at a dyno.
no.
That was a new one on that. The curves were upside down and negative numbers, so that was a new one on
First
everyone.
responder garage. Gold is good also. Yeah, Mr. Totally agree. What else were we talking about to get sorted? Oh, I wanted to explain Bill's position here. I don't know quite where he got to before I came in, but essentially, guys, here's the plan. Andy and I are trying to create the best members channel we can, right? I'm going to have Bill make a few comments on that to see A, how successful we've been so far, and B, where we might go from here. Now, the reason we picked Bill is because after talking to him at the Engine Masters show, I realized that he had a great bandwidth.
Well, thank you.
Right? Everything from chassis to engines and guitars, right?
And guitars.
You can tell he was a guitar guy.
I'm a musician. David, so we did the live thing Friday.
Yeah.
And Saturday, we when we left, we went by my shop, which is about 15 minutes away from here, and David got to see some of my projects and the guitars. So we have I'm my user name here on YouTube is Stepside Deluxe. So you guys may have seen me. It's the name of our band, and we have a big shop in Dallas, North Carolina called Fret Garage. And I'm going to give you that email address here shortly. And so what we're going to do is, if you guys have questions for David, because he is so busy during the week, I'm going to give you an email address that you can shoot me and just shoot in there in the title, so I know it's not spam or subject line. Question for DV or something of that nature.
We need to put a word limit on it.
Yes.
Right.
And not a million questions, guys.
No, maximum 2 questions.
Right.
Because if you ask a lot of questions, we'll have to go through them faster and in less detail.
Correct.
Right. So, but before that, I was making a comment about Bill. So, with all of his vast interests, we thought when a question gets asked, he won't be a complete dummy on it. He'll know what you're talking about because he's been involved in building cars. So he knows a good deal about suspension, a good deal about engines, a good deal about final drives and gearboxes. Not necessarily a total expert, but any question you ask him, he's probably aware that that is a problem or could be a problem, or he sees how it could be a problem. So he'll pass that on. Now, Andy has got this deal where suspension and gearboxes, he's pretty damn good at, right? I mean, rebuild a Turbo 400, blindfold him, you do it. And suspensions as well, plus gear ratios, plus he's pretty damn good engine builder. So he's very universal. Me, I've given up on gearboxes, right? Automatic gearboxes aren't my favorite deal at all. Why? Initially, because they always cost too much horsepower. But with the introduction of these latest gearboxes, like the 10-speed GM and Ford ones, they're pretty efficient. Good.
Right. Pretty efficient.
Right. Our number one sponsor on the cylinder head stuff is Carl over at the transmission place. And he's designed this unit to control a 10-speed, GM 10-speed on the Ford. And he's put one in a Grand Marquis, the one that's like the looks like the Crown Vic, right? About 10 years ago, right? And you know, I cannot believe how sporty that's made that car. I mean, it's no longer like you're driving a limo. It's like you're driving a sports limo, literally. I mean, he's put some different shocks on it, some different springs, and lowered it slightly. The engine's up to about, I think he's got headers on it, quiet mufflers, headers, a K&N clean air kit, and a few other bits and bobs. Probably up the power by about 50 horsepower. But it's 10-speed in there, right? It's always in the power curve.
Right.
I mean, you can't find the wrong gear.
So he's got a real sleeper brewing there.
Well, it's not the fastest car in the world, but what it is, it's the most, I'm quite sure how to put this, civilized.
Right.
Right. I mean, it runs a 1/8 mile in something like 9 seconds.
So respectable.
Right. So it has a reasonable sports car performance, but does great miles per gallon. Like I said, it's always in the right gear. It shifts very nicely. Civilized. And here's the other thing too. You can set the programming up on those gearboxes so that it's just like heel and towing into a corner with a manual. It downshifts, no sudden jerk like that when it downshifts. It just goes whoa, whoa, whoa as it goes down through the gear. Anyone on the outside's thinking, God, that guy's great at playing a tune on that clutch and throttle. What more could you ask for? That's why I went with a 10-speed in my Mustang, is because it's very good at downshifting when you're going into a corner. It's not going to suddenly apply more rear wheel braking torque that causes you to have the tires break free. It doesn't. It tunes the shift so that when you downshift, there's almost no discontinuity. There's no change in the way it changes as it goes down through the box. So anyway, that proves to me that the transmission on a car is as much about a high performance car as the engine is, as the suspension is, as noise is, right? I don't like loud, noisy cars unless they make loud, noisy 1/4 mile passes in 4 seconds, right? Don't brag until you can produce the goods that absolutely make you undeniably the fastest guy in the county, in the state, in the country.
Right. So we've had Steve join us, John. It's like Stefan or Steven. I never know when it's spelled like that, which way the pronunciation is. We're going to get to your guys' questions here shortly. We just
oh, I still didn't finish about your
my goodness.
Yeah, right. Andy, I don't know how many of you know this, but Andy is the chief guy for the union at the Freightliner. Yeah, Freightliner. I couldn't get past white.
Well, yeah, they absorbed them in, didn't they? Years ago. Yeah, Freightliner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's
something like that. Yeah.
So anyway, the thing is Andy is very good at negotiating, right, and seeing problems and that. Bill has the same.
Stephen. Okay. Thank you, Stephen.
So the thing is Bill is going to represent your needs, right? So anything where you have a situation where you need a question answered or what to do about this, that, or the other, or a comment and that, Bill receives that and basically tries to position himself as if he were
the rep.
Them.
Yes.
Right.
So if you'll hang out to the end, I'll shoot an email.
He's like your lawyer.
Well, goodness.
But he didn't cost much.
Yes, if you'll hang out to the end, I'll pass along a good email address that you can shoot over to my shop, and I will sift through the questions, just kind of hold them down to 2 per email with a good subject line, and we'll get them over to David, and we'll get your questions here shortly. Any updates on current projects? We talked about maybe so what do you have going on? Any updates on anything right now? I can't believe all the tech.
Don't know. There's so much coming in, but let's see if we wander around to it. Right?
Okay. All right.
Now, I did want to answer this here. Thomas Glinchy, 2024. Boy, you're only 2 years old then. And you're already knowing how to use a computer. Wow, that's good.
It's pretty good. And he's a channel member.
Yeah.
Pretty smart guy.
Now, okay, I'm reading your question here. I was hoping to modify the standard head instead. Is increasing port elevation really the main thing worth chasing? No. And that's with a caveat. If you're going to raise the port 4 inches, that's a real good improvement likely there. But the main thing with any head that wasn't designed before, say, about 2005, is likely to have shrouded chambers, right? Certainly all the Ford and Chevy heads from the original small block have shrouded chambers. So there comes a time when raising the port doesn't do anything because the restriction is at the valve, right? Let me make a point here. Any of you, this is where we go over to the 5 golden rules.
Yes.
We're going over to the 5 golden rules. This is in my head porting book, so you can get them in detail. You get that book, how to flow test and port cylinder heads, from Amazon.com. When you get to the book section, just put my name in there. I'll come up with all the rubbish I've ever written and some of the good stuff.
That's a great book, guys. I would highly recommend if you're into cylinder head porting, want to get into it. If you want to join the cylinder head challenge, upcoming challenge.
The upcoming. Right now we've filled
the current one.
Yeah, the current one.
Okay.
Right, but I would like to have some feedback on what will be the next one.
Okay.
Right. This is the plan so far. We haven't done the first one yet, but this is the plan so far. Build a nice LS bottom end. Have 2 sets of heads here. A set that I've ported and a stock set. We get the winner's heads from the flow bench, and say he's porting 1 cylinder. We send him a pair of cylinders. That's the 2. He ports those, then sends them back to us. We dyno test them and see how good they were. And then maybe for the second place guy, we try the same thing, but later on. Mm-hmm. Right now, we're trying to get more prize money here for this. And I think, all depending on how well the first one goes, I think we'll do it. If we can target $5,000 for the winner's prize, I think we'll probably get our contestants. And here's the thing. What we may do if we exceed $10,000 is we will pay your airfare, the winner's airfare, to come here and sit in on the dyno test, right? So they can see it and have them in the program.
That's a great prize, guys.
Right? Yeah, but we haven't got there yet. Now it all depends on how well this one goes, right. And it looks like it's picking up very nicely. Now, I have a bunch of DV's books. This is Aggravated Progressive 2. I can relate to that. I have a bunch of DV's books. Great stuff. Have YouTube videos?
Probably his YouTube videos are gold too. Probably
are good.
Little typo
gold
there.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ag. Right, guys. If you're a regular poster, it'd be nice to get your first name up there. I know this is not necessarily, what should we say, normal practice, but, you know, I'm beginning to feel that it's like family, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. There's these people that we're operating with.
Well, we see a lot of the same names, and before I even here on camera with you, when I was just posting directly as a channel member, I see a lot of the names I've seen before. So, Mopar Man's here, Kurt, Stephen, Mayor, the guys that here were earlier. So yeah, if you don't mind, just throw out your name behind your or your handle's great. We'd like to get to know everyone really well. We're going to talk about some few things, and we were just talking about the head porting, and in reviewing your book. I was going back to the 5 golden rules.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, look, in my book, and I'm doing a
I'm
series.
going to go to my notes over here. I'm a big note keeper, guys.
In the head book, I've got a chapter, 5 golden rules. Right, what it is solid concrete rules, which if you follow, you will achieve success. Right, it puts everything into perspective. Most people don't realize that any engine that's normally aspirated, they don't actually realize where the number 1 restriction to flow is. Right? Terrible. Don't realize it.
And that's rule number 1. Locate
the point of greatest restriction. You've read the book.
I have, and I made notes. I keep these notes pads around, and as I'm reading, I write down.
Here.
Yeah.
What is the point of greatest restriction in an engine? Put your answers up there, because some of you will know. If you read the book, don't put your name up. Right. Those of you who have not bought the book yet, what is the point of greatest restriction?
So what do you think, guys? What do you think the point of the greatest restriction on a cylinder head is? Because that's where we want to start when we're porting. So what is that?
Well, they're coming to that conclusion. I'm going to get myself another drink. So I'll be back in under a minute, guys.
He is coming back this way. So what we were talking about,
greater pointest restriction. Greater pointest restriction.
The upcoming cylinder head challenge that David is putting together, and talking about his book that you should get if you don't have it. But the 5 golden rules of cylinder head porting, and number 1 is locate the point of greatest restriction and work there first. So does anyone know what that might be? Because that is very important when you're starting this, and you work through it in a methodical way. The book gives you all the tips, and anyone can do this. I'm going to scroll down here and see if we've got any comments on that yet. Valve seat, intake valve seat. That's, guys, you're exactly right. The valves are absolutely, and there's some great diagrams in the book that go over those things. And David has a series of videos on his channel that talks about this very thing. I think there's 9 videos in the series. It's well worth your time to watch. Grab the book. David is going to grab a quick drink and come back, but we've got a lot of great answers here. And let me know if any of you guys are currently porting or hope to port some heads. And that would be another great topic to cover while waiting on David to come back in and go over his next one. Yes, the small block Chevy books have been great. I'm embarrassed to say how many David's books I have, and been able to discuss some topics with him on that. And we've got some, here he comes back. We've got some great answers, David. I think these guys might have read your book.
Well, they're cheating then.
Here he is.
Well, they're kind of right. No, valve seat. Yes, but the valve seat by itself doesn't do anything if it's just a valve seat.
With no valve in it.
2 valves seats, one on the valve and one on the head. But That's we'll give them 50%
Okay.
right on that. Right. Exhaust valves, no. Intake valve in C, yes. The intake valve is a great big blockage in an otherwise pretty streamlined port, right? How efficient the intake valve is dictates everything. And efficiency is not how many CFM it flows, but how effectively it flows them in terms of its size. If we take some basic, I don't know whether to call them aerodynamic rules or fluid motion rules, right? Then with the air pressure we're dealing with, we can calculate what a 100% efficient valve should flow, right? And just so that you see how I get this right, it's 143 CFM per square inch at 28 inches, right? Now, 100% efficient. Now, this doesn't mean we can't get a hole that's a square inch area to flow more than that. But there's some tricks involved. There's always tricks involved in there.
Always.
Right? In my book, I tell you how you can actually get the seat and the valve such that your 2-inch diameter valve flows as if it's 2 1/4 inches. And how does that affect things? Well, I want to mention one thing here. These cylinder head tests. Oh, let me make one thing clear here. I don't know any other journalist who's ever been rated to be up to spec to be able to test for what's the emissions people called? EPA, right? Because their tests aren't done properly enough. Right? Let's say we're in Germany and somebody is claiming that their cylinder head makes 20 horsepower more than the stock one, or some more. Right now, in Germany, their truth in advertising thing is much more severe than it is here. For instance, many years ago, I remember the Triumph 2.5 was reckoned to be, they were stating it was 140 horsepower SAE. And the German, it's like the EPA, but they test to see. They put it on the dyno and only made, they bought a car, took the engine out, put it on the dyno, only made 138. You wouldn't believe the fine that Triumph had to pay for that. Now, they didn't modify the car at all. They knew that pretty much on average, they made between 138 and 142. So 140 is reasonable. But they weren't allowed that 2 horsepower deviation. So they, instead of upping the power a bit, they reprinted catalogs where it says 138 horsepower.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, I tell you, that was a nice car. That I don't know about its reliability, but the
well, you know, I'm a Triumph fan, right? Now you saw my motorcycle there at the.
Oh well, that's a Triumph. That's not the same company.
Well, I know,
Right?
but still.
But yes, I'm a Triumph fan. My brother out of Bonneville, right? He had twin Amel Grand Prix carburetors. He ported the heads. Is it 1 head or 2 on there?
2.
Ported the heads. Guess whose workshop we used to do that?
Yours.
Funny enough, you're right. How'd you know? And he had the some cams from a guy over here in America. I can't remember whose they were. Some different mufflers on it, and I think it upped the power to around about 80 horsepower. It was 65 and it went up to about 80. Now that doesn't sound much, but you know, we're only dealing with a 400-pound vehicle.
It's a seat. It's a motor with a seat on it.
Yeah.
2 wheels, essentially.
Right. So I had a ride on it and it was
spirited.
Pretty fast. Yeah. I mean, we could hit 60 in about 4 seconds, right? That was pretty good.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the first gear, you had a job to keep the front wheel on the ground, right? So that was 80 genuine horsepower. Now, that wasn't the fastest there was. There were guys making 90 horsepower from those engines back then, but they were track-only motors. But anyway, so where was I?
So we were talking about the EPA and the and the Triumph.
Yeah. So I'm EPA approved to do tests. Now, let's talk about cam tests and cylinder head tests. You can't do either one without optimization. For instance, and I'm not off track here. This brings us back to seat flow efficiency. When you you can get airflow through a valve, increase it two ways: make it bigger, make it more efficient. The engine doesn't know whether you've made it 10% more efficient or the valve's 10% bigger.
Right.
It doesn't know the difference, can't tell. So now let's say we've got two cylinder heads we've got to test on an engine, right? One has very poor flow off the seat, but good flow high up. The other one has very good flow off the seat, but only moderate flow high up, right? So you're going to dyno test it. Now, mostly what this would be an A/B test. You know, people say, oh, you need to do an A/B test. Hell no, they are one of the most unreliable tests you can do. Because let's say I do the camshaft for the poor flowing one. What that means is because the valve looks small, because it's inefficient, doesn't flow well, the engine thinks it's got a smaller valve. When you have a smaller intake valve or less efficient intake valve, the lobe center line needs to be tightened up. When it's a very efficient valve, flows a lot at low lift, it needs to be spread. Now, how much difference can it make? A okay head in the not good flow, but decent flow up top, and one the other way around. It's about 4 to 5 degrees. Test two cams with progressively more degrees off. When you get to 5 degrees, if the first one was right, you're down a rabbit hole with this one, right? So you could change cylinder heads and be so far off what that cylinder head required for a lobe centerline angle that it actually tests out worse. Now, what you've got to do when you test a cylinder head, you need an adjustable cam drive. You always need that. Anytime testing camshaft, not valid unless it's got an adjustable cam drive. What you do is you find out what lobe centerline angle this head wants and adjust it. Then you put the other heads on and find out what lobe centerline they like with their cam, right? And adjust it. Now, how do you find their cam? Well, normally you'd have to go through a whole load of calculations, but DV has a cam program.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I guess you did. So what I do is check it with both cams that the program calls for. And it is usually accurate to 1 degree. Now, here's something you need to know about camshaft timing. If you get the advance 1 degree too much from optimum, over the rev range you use on the track, it makes no difference at all. It just makes the idle worse and less vacuum.
Right.
If you are 1 degree retarded, you can kiss 10 horsepower goodbye.
Right.
So what I do is I try to always have the camshaft on the too tight side because I've got a tolerance of 1 degree. So if my program says 110, I've already got that 1 degree tolerance in.
Right.
So I could go to 111 and probably see no difference. 112, yes. I could probably go to, what did I say, 1 degree to advance and see barely any difference. So that's your window there, right? If you can hit it in that window, then anywhere in that window is as good as absolute dead central bullseye.
Right.
Right. Now, so if you're going to test a cylinder head, it goes along with at least 2 camshaft tests, one for the one and one for the other. Right. And there's too many head tests done out there that doesn't allow for that. Now, if you've got the efficiency curves of the heads and they all come in about 0.72 for the discharge coefficient of the first 100,000, 150,000. One cam will get it done. Right now, as it happens, most heads fall in a very narrow band because they're doing a production seat. It has to be done cheap and seal up, right? Nothing fancy. Now, let me tell you something about airflow research. All the heads I've tested, now this could be a sheer coincidence, but out of the dozens of airflow heads I've tested, on every occasion, the seats and valves they use in there flow very well in the up to 200 mark and beyond, but they're nearer the. So I have a theory as to why they win so many contests. Most camshafts that are used in these tests aren't right. They're almost always too wide on the lobe centerline angle. So when somebody takes off a stock cylinder head and puts a non-airflow research head on, puts it on, the airflow might be only the same as the head that they took off, which is not enough at low lift because they've got the too wide a lobe centerline. When they put the airflow heads on, it partially corrects that.
Gotcha.
So not only do they make power from the extra flow, they make power from having the flow at the right place for the camshaft. Bonus, they make more horsepower than everybody else, right?
Interesting.
So other people having their cylinder heads tested, you're probably going to the wrong place to have them tested. You probably would show more horsepower gain if we were testing the heads because we test them with a cam. Now, nobody else can do that unless they got my cam program. Anyway, that's beside the point. Hopefully that enlightened you.
And if you haven't picked up the Torque Master program, I would encourage you to do so. I own it, and David actually worked with me on it some this week and gave me a couple tips and a little insight. And I'm even more amazed now that I've got his coaching with it. And
well, you know, funny you should say about that, because I've forgotten all about it.
yeah,
Right now, now if Bill tells you, well, I went through it pretty good, he's kind of not really being honest here. He's not your average brain pot, right? He picked it all up in about an hour and a half, which is twice as fast as most people do. So it does take a little bit of brain power above average. But if you're building a race engine, that takes a lot of brain power above average, doesn't it? So if you can get the brain power from a program on here, you're that much nearer big guy.
sure thing.
Right? And by the way, very few professional engine builders have this program. They believe that they can guess it. No. Getting the right timing, calculating the right timing on an engine from basic principles or even dyno testing, you have to have a dyno test regime that is out of this world, right? You can't just put a cam and test it. You have to know what's going on in that engine, right? We had all kinds of equipment to tell us what was going on there. In-cylinder pressure measurement, measurements of fuel distribution and things like this, which you had to fix. All of this had to be fixed. Right? When we did our mini heads, mini cams, there was no fixing the fuel distribution problem easily for a customer. So we had to design a cam which tended to fix the distribution problem, right? Well, how do you know on a Mini, which has got 5 ports, 2 intake, 3 exhaust, how do you know which cylinders are working best? How do you know which have the high pressure and the ones that are getting robbed, right? Because they're all joined up together. Well, the good news is here, I'm not telling you, right? I might have to do another job like this. If somebody's got one, I know how to do it. And without any great deal of fancy equipment, right? This is what you learn when you're doing not 10, not 100, not 1,000, but thousands of cam. And I mean that in a big plural, thousands of cam tests, right? So what else do we have to say about cam tests? Oh yeah, so you can't test cams either without That's not a true representation.
Right.
Anybody who goes in for a cam test program has to have a degree of sportsmanship to figure that the engine spec and the way your cam grinder ground the cams didn't fit what the timing was that cam needed in that engine,
That
because you
particular
didn't
engine.
know.
Right.
Right? Nobody knew. So it could be my cam was spot on, but it was in wrong because the cam sprockets were a degree off here, a degree off there, and the cam wasn't ground on whatever advance it's supposed to be. So my cam could have been 4 degrees off. That's the 1 degree that we don't want to retard, plus the 3. So it's 4 degrees off. How much horsepower is that? 15, 20. The other cam the guy might not be the perfect cam, but it ends up being timed in perfectly. So it shows 15 horsepower more than your cam, or five horsepower less if your cam had been timed in right. Now, so if you enter one of these competitions where it's not timed in, you have to stick by the rules. And if they say you lost, you took on those rules, right? Testing a load of cams like Eric did was a monumental job. I realized that Eric didn't have time to time each cam, but I entered with the same rules everybody else did. If they can't take a loss, they're not very sporty, right? My hat's off to Eric. Although he didn't do a perfect cam test, he told you beforehand, this is the rules. So if you entered, that was the rules. Take it or leave it.
So we talked about the first golden rule, which is locate the point of greatest restriction.
Yep.
Work on that first.
Yep. So
let's get to the second one, David. And what is that? Let the air.
I don't know. I didn't read the book.
Let the air
go where
move the way it wants to.
Yeah,
yes,
that's right.
Not where you want it to.
You look,
and I think people make that mistake.
They do. Look, let me say. Well, I want this cam in the engine, right? No, you don't. You have to look at what the engine wants. It don't give a shit what you want, right? This is why people say, well, I need to have this timing in there. No, it's what the timing the engine wants you should be after. Nothing else is right unless you happen to guess right. Right? Notice that, guess right. And sometimes as a cam event designer, and I'm stressing that for the purpose of educating John Schmidt, people who are on the Speed Talk channel will know exactly who I mean. John is hell-bent on arguing with anything I say, whether he's got the right answer or not, right? He will even argue about something I'm doing as if it's negative, when what he's saying I'm doing is exactly right. That's what I'm doing. But he'll find a reason to argue that. So anyway, I gave up on the guy. He needs to go and see a psychiatrist. Now, where were we on this? The second rule. Second rule.
Yeah.
Right. How do you know where the air wants to go? Flow ball is a good idea to start with, isn't it? Everybody know where to flow? Go and pick one off the flow bench out there, if you would, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Now, before flow balls were invented, right?
Brought us a little variety.
Yeah, there's a variety. Put them up sort of semi-close to the
guys, let me hold it back here where we can see it. So here's a couple different sizes.
They go up in size. The smallest one's about,
I think I've got them out of order here, but
maybe 1/8 of an inch, and the biggest one's a 1/2 an inch, right? This is a range in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. Now, what you do is you shove these down the port. You shove them down the port, move them around, and find out where they affect the flow the most, because that's where most of the air is going. If you block that area off, then the flow will drop. But it doesn't always work that way. Let's make a point here. A lot of people can put something like that, I'm emphasizing, something like a flow ball down onto the short side turn just before it starts to tip over, and the flow goes up, right? They think, my God, if I block it here, the flow goes up. The question is why does the flow go up when you block it there? Because the air doesn't want to go there because it's going so damn fast. It skips right off the short side turn. And it's going fast enough to semi-block the flow on the long side. What you want is the air on the short side to go around the short side. Now, one of the things, I had to laugh at this Darren Morgan, right? Just Darren, he's a head pro for sure, right? And we have some interesting things, but I notice things he says, which are said solely to keep people from investigating that area because he doesn't want other pro stock engine builders to get him. I'm not going to tell any of them, right? But I've seen this with Darren. He's not lying. He will leave bits out so that you'll get slightly off the right, so other people don't go down that road, right? But trust me, he knows what he's doing, really does. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, before I started using flow balls, I used a screwdriver, right? And I also used bent screwdrivers. Now, if you're using a screwdriver down a port, what you do is you start off somewhere about the pinch point, doesn't matter. And with the screwdriver flat like this and about an angle of 15 or so, maybe 20 degrees, you slowly go down the middle of the port on the floor. And when you get to where it turns over, you follow it round and tip it up like this. And you will find that there's a point where the flow increases. And here's why. On the short side turn, the air's got the straightest shot from the port into the chamber. However, it's presented with this turn. So it goes fast at the beginning of the turn, then it breaks away. Now, here's the thing. How big a radius do you need for it not to break away? Probably about a mile, right? About a 1 mile radius. No, I'm exaggerating, but you can't get a radius big enough in there for it not to break away in a normal application. Really, if you had a radius of 2 feet, I don't think it'd be enough for it. You've got to aggravate that air in such a way that it feels like it wants to reattach itself to the short side. Now, I've got a port that I can demonstrate what I mean here. The old BMW heads, right, and the 4-cylinder engines that they were producing, I think just before the war and just after, they had a very interesting intake port. Let's say that this is the cylinder. Bill, can I move you over?
Yeah, sure.
That's enough. Say this is the cylinder head here. Normally we have the ports coming in. A bit more. We have the ports coming in like this and down. What they did was, here's the valve. They made the ports come down like this, round and round. So they bounced the air off 2 sides. By the time they bounced it off the first side going one way and bounced it off the second side going the other way, it was almost vertical on the valve. There was no short side turn, right? Flowed like a damn toilet that's running on 500 PSI. That's got a sight to see. You don't want to be near that.
No.
So, how can you replicate the screwdriver? Or it's easy. Well, you can do the screwdriver, but there's a better way of doing it. What you do is you bend the screwdriver, right? So that you can go along and around the corner a bit. Then you get some clay and you build like a bulge, a teardrop, half a teardrop, and you put the blunt side on the valve side and the streamlined side on here. So it's like, you'll see them on all piston engine planes with radial engines. They have bumps going around the cowling, right? Those bumps are not a device to clear the valves. That's a secondary. They found that with those bumps on, the plane will go faster than without them, regardless of whether they're clearance for a valve train, right? In my book, I tell the story of how that came about. When they took the bumps off the cowling from the new engine, which was smaller, the plane went about 4 miles an hour slower.
Wow.
Right, and that's 4 miles an hour and about 150. So it's noticeable. So put the bumps back. What you're doing here is the short side turn is like the leading side of the cowling on an aircraft, right? You only need one bump though. Now, what that does is as the air comes up to the short side, the area gets less, right? Now, as it opens into the bowl, when it gets to the bump, a lot of it gets deflected up to the top, right? When it comes to the area of the bowl, it opens out like this, and then the air, when it gets to the radius and you've got the bump, here's the radius of the valve there, and the bump stops just here. There's a huge increase in area. It slows down 20 or 30 miles an hour, literally. And more of it makes it round the corner.
Interesting.
Yes. That is one of the most aggravating mods to do, because the only way you can do it on a prototype model, and unless you're Darren Morgan and you got this magic wand with a grinding wheel on the end of it, or a cutter, you can't get at it, right? I have spent days cutting them, the epoxy ones cutting them, putting more back because it's too much, days to get that to where my clay model was when it worked, days. I suspect Darren spent hours on it. Right?
That good? Yeah.
Right. Yes. But I'm a bit unsteady these days. I don't tickle rhinoceroses anymore because I can't outrun them. So anyway, now that is the opposite. I'm making the air go where I want it so that it can do what I want. That's one of the rare occasions. Now, when you deshroud a valve, you are doing what the valve wants, right? You've got to look at it like as the valve opens, it needs more space to come around the valve to where the chamber wall is. And the easiest way to make sure you've got a reasonable amount is to see that the edge of the valve is the same distance from the chamber to the valve as it is from the valve seat to the seat in the head, right? That's a good first estimate. That gives you slightly more area than the valve presents. And that's the reason is you lose some flow. So you need the hole a bit bigger on the other side. Now, there's a second one on this. And I've seen people claim that the reason that their heads work is they're tapered evenly all the way down to the valve. And that's why they work. Bullshit.
Tell us how you really feel, David.
No, I'm just exaggerating it so these guys get what I mean.
Point taken.
Point I put over here is that it's bullshit. It looks at first sight like that might be the case, but it's not, right? Do you know why we have flow benches? To prove our theory right or wrong, right? Cut a port like that, give me a port like that, and I'll show you how I'll increase the flow, right? By not making it a true taper. Absolutely not. Now, I'm going to now get around to why this is so. You're taking you never have a port, which is like this, down, let's go over here, down to the valve, taper down, straight. No such thing, except mine in there. I've done a port like that, which is dead straight. The valve's about yay long. It must be about 14 inches long. And it goes down a straight port with a radius into the seat, a 60-degree seat and a radius coming out and into a form which gives no shrouding on the valve all the way around. That port shows much better flow than one with a straight port. Much, I mean, 20%.
Wow.
Right? Now, here's the other thing. Swirl is very important, but I have to qualify that. If you have swirl in a race engine, you must make sure that there isn't such large fuel droplets that they get centrifuged out. Now, if we go back 25 years, a lot of cup car guys were getting high swirl heads and finding they made less horsepower, right? What they didn't check was how big their fuel droplet sizes were. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm correct in saying nobody did that. If anyone did do it, then by all means, let me know. I'll give you credit for it. But I don't reckon anyone was doing that except me. Right? I remember looking at the wet fuel droplets coming in and seeing a ring round, and then it would wash down the wall. Won't work. What you've got to do is you need to have fuel droplets commensurate with the amount of swirl you've got, right? You can put all the swirl you want into a port and into the cylinder, huge amount, more than you can achieve. And if it's under 5 microns, it will follow the air, not the mass centrifuge of the radial motion, right? Anything less than 5 microns might as well be a vapor. It's going to follow the air. Anything bigger than about 20 microns is definitely going to follow the mass. So there's always that. So when we don't, most cup car engines are operating in the 7,000 to 9,500 range. Well, certainly everything above 8,000, you couldn't get too little mixture motion. If you wanted to, you couldn't have a non-swirl likeness, because at 8,000 RPM, that piston's going up and down the bore approximately 125 times a second. It's going to beat the shit out of that mixture and buffet that air, right? So whatever fuel wasn't broken up, sure as hell is now, and it's coming in through the valve at such a speed that if it hits anything, it's a fog. When I was working with apologies, I think it was Kevin at Dart, their pro stock head guy. I was showing him fuel vaporization, droplet size, with a camera setup I had. And boy, he latched onto that. If I've got his name wrong, brain surgery, right? Now, I keep on bringing this point up, but it's embarrassing. When I first went to a show at PRI after my brain surgery, I thought I'd be okay with this. It was about 40 people I didn't recognize. It wasn't 40 new people. These are people I'd known for over 30 years and dealt with them regularly. Didn't recognize them, right? But that's how bad it was. And what I don't want people to think that I forget is that they were inconsequential, because let me tell you, I didn't know who my wife was when I came around. And trust me, she let me know she wasn't inconsequential right away.
Very quickly.
Yes. And well, it seemed quick to me. It could have been a day, right? But anyway, so I don't want to appear disrespectful for those people that I know helped me, right? Kevin. Anyway, believe it or not, yeah, I'm sure you'll believe this. He was good at cylinder heads, right? He was good. And here's the other thing. Remember what we were talking about earlier on? People dedicated. He was one of those guys, right? I mean, We were on the same wavelength. Boy, I tell you what, I loved working around that guy. He was nuts on, right? And anyway, that's enough of that. So, swirl. Back to the swirl. If you are building a road car, you need your engine, your cylinder, your head to generate swirl. If some's good, more's better. And this is one of those rules where too much is just about right. How much is too much? I haven't found out yet, but on my swirl meter from Performance Trends, I've got up to some rip-roaring RPM on there.
I think you jumped just straight right into golden rule number 4. We just jumped right over 3 because you got right into the swirl there.
Yeah.
So let's jump back to 3. Why don't we talk about that?
Let's say you want to check swirl, but you don't have a swirl meter. It's so easy, you wouldn't believe. Your cylinder, get your cylinder. It's best if it's made of plexiglass, and drill 2 holes about this far down. One angled in so that it comes to the inside of the bore like this, just tangent to it. So any swirl going around will hit that hole, and you're going to put a pipe in it, go down that pipe and measure itself on a manometer. And you'll do another one 180 degrees opposite, going exactly the same way. So one gets the swirl going one way, and the other gets the swirl going the other way, right? And all you do is you write down what the manometer says. The more it goes, the more swirl you got. You don't need to know the value of the swirl. You just a ballpark figure, because more is better. Now, how do you know when it's good? Simple. You got a small block Chevy head, put it on there. If you can cut a head that does what a small block Chevy head is, you're doing good. I mean, on my swirl meter, anything from 2,000 to 2,500 RPM, you can't see the blade go around. It's a blur, right? If you put a Ford on there, you'd be lucky to see 600, and the worst of it, it reverses. So any gain you had to start with, it cancels out. Now, whose Ford head works well?
Whose?
Airflow Research.
Back to Airflow Research.
Edelbrock. Now, here's the thing. I talked to both of their guys. I've forgotten the one at Airflow Research at the time. And I apologize for that. I was probably on the phone to him once a week. Sorry. And Dr. I know any of you who go to PRI will know this guy. Since they swapped over, I don't think he works for Edelbrock. Dr. Rick Roberts, right? And both of those heads have swirl. Both of them make outstanding performance for that type of head, right? This is the absolute basic replacement for whatever stock head you've got on there. Both of them had swirl numbers approaching what a Chevrolet had. And both of them produced big results on the dyno, especially around 2,000 RPM. Now, here's my grunt at engine tests, right? The ones we do are technically about where a top-end street strip motor would be. Like the ones we dyno tested this one. They are not quite race engines, right? Red line is 7,000. I don't think it's a real race engine until you're turning 8,000 plus, right? It's a real race engine when you're turning 11,000 push rod.
And some serious compression as well.
Yeah, some serious everything. But let me expand on where I'm going there. If you're going to dyno test a true street motor, which I'm guessing here, 80% of our audience wants, and I'm guessing something like 18% of them would like a street strip motor, and 2% of them would like a race motor. This is what they would like to have. However, when we go to content, we find that everyone who's not building their engine at that moment wants a race engine or a street strip engine. And everyone who's going to build their street engine wants a street engine. So it's this hodgepodge of who wants what, why, when, and where. Very difficult to predict, right? But we're working on the assumption that at least 60% of our audience doesn't have 15 grand to spend on an engine, which is the bottom end of a good street strip engine. Sure, you can build one for less. That's when you're a good mechanic, good engine builder. Sure, I can build a street strip motor for 5 grand. Why? Because I know the parts to look for, what can be used secondhand, what can't be, and I know how to put it all together in the best form. The number one thing that I score is I get the camshaft right first time. 90% of those engines out there don't have the cam right. And you might think I'm exaggerating. Sorry, guys. If you think I'm exaggerating, you are in a sad position, not me. What's next on the agenda? Anybody got anything to argue with over what I've said?
So we were going through the 5 golden rules for pro-grade porting, and we talked about where the let the air move where it wants to, and then we kind of jumped up to the swirl or mixture motion, but we didn't talk about. We're back here to the second rule.
Mention that about Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie, right? He's got a great channel, and if you aren't watching it, you need to. I watch his every time he posts a video. He's been out of the country here on
he's back now. Yeah,
a little vacay, but his wife surprised him with. But he's back. But he shows some really good information on there, and Charlie knows what he's doing. And you're right, he does show that with the Dicom on there, show how the splatter or the swirl works.
Yeah, and but this is like plug reading. People have said to me, Smokey Unit does that. Oh, yeah, I said, he's been doing it 50 years. How long have you been doing it? Right? Look, Smokey achieved things that a lot of people don't. Right? So don't use that argument, well, Smokey did it this way, because do you have the reconnaissance skills? That might be not the right word, but the skills to recognize a problem from a very small amount of evidence, right? This was one of Smokey's talents, gifts. That's the right word, right? One of Smokey's gifts. He would, and I talked to a guy who worked with him at one of the piston companies, Seal Power. One of those big piston companies. And he said Smokey was very intuitive. He would somehow manage to see through the first layer of the obvious problem into the second layer and sometimes the third, when nobody had got past the first.
Just peeling back the onion.
That's right. He was and he had this ability to go several layers of onions deeper than somebody else, almost in an instant.
Right.
It's like, yeah, well, the chief engineer would have thought of that tomorrow. But Smokey thought of it 10 minutes after the run stopped. That's the way it was, right? And look, you can read, if you haven't read Smokey's book, it's the only X-rated tech book I know. Awesome book, right?
I have that book.
You have that book?
I do.
What do you think of it?
It's excellent. I've got his and Bill Jenkins' book.
No, yeah, Bill Jenkins' book wasn't all Bill Jenkins. Right, I had a big talk to Bill about that, and he says, well, sometimes they've edited not quite the way I said it. He said, bless their souls, they did a nice job of producing the book, but that it left the reader with not quite the impression I was trying to make. Right? So on the other hand, Bill's book, as you well know, it's published exactly as he wrote it, spelling mistakes and everything. Yeah.
Smokey's book.
Smokey's book.
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said Bill's. Anyway, Smokey's book.
I did.
You did. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll look back at it later.
Look, I need to get back in the picture here.
No.
Rolling out. Let's get over here. I tend to end up where I'm comfortable.
Yeah, just like rolling out of the screen here.
Anyway,
So we jumped into the back to the third rule, and I see Dash jumped in there with areas heavier than you think. Keep the and the
I don't. Tim, you just wrote Kazi. Yep, a great engine guy, but what about him? Right? If you put a question mark after that, that would leave me in the position I'm in at the moment. What about John Kazi? Great engine builder. Not so much now because I can't travel, but in the past I've had quite a few occasions when I've been down to his shop, and he's amazing. Don't need to say anymore. He is amazing.
So we're reading through the comments.
No, actually, sorry, VGHCX. How do you pronounce that?
I think you got it right.
Only VVT, double overhead cam engines, can give you the best of both worlds. No, they approach it. Sure, they approach it, but it's a hard way of doing what can be done far, 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 far simpler. If I was designing a production line engine, I would have as good a power band as any variable valve timing engine with no mechanism, no extra cost over whatever was done without my torque expanding method, right? I am very good at saving production costs, not just good, very good. That's what I used to do for a living. I used to be the engineer responsible. One of my duties was to be responsible for the drawing office's designs, right? And this is in the aircraft industry. And I remember this one guy had this job, which he spent 9 months doing, designing it. And I had to check it. Well, I got to about 3 days on checking to see if it all fit together and that, from checking dimensions and things. And it suddenly dawned on me, it's an easier way of doing it. And I called him in and I said, exactly what's it supposed to do? And he said, and I can't remember what it was exactly, but he says, oh, well, it does this and does. And I looked at him and I said, you can do this with a bent bit of alley. What? Look, here, you bend it like this, you put a screw hole there and a screw hole there. You put a dog gauge on top. It's done. Oh my God. I'm going to get fired over this. Well, I'm not going to tell anyone, right? But you'll have to go back, hide all these drawings, and design me a bent bit of metal and a screw on top, and we'll forget the 9 months you've been doing, right? So I reduced the cost from something like, and I'm going to turn it into today's money, something like $100,000 down to 25. Is that a saving?
Big one.
Big one, yeah.
Big one.
That's not the only one. I have saved money for dozens of companies like that. Company designing a jigsaw. They were going to the market with a jigsaw. They thought there'd be a really, really, really good one if they had a counterbalance weight on it so that it balanced it out like an engine, because you got going up and down like this, and they thought they'd put on the counterweight going round one way and then a reverse counterweight of half the speed going the other way, right? Maybe two, one in the middle, right? And he brought the mechanism up to show me, because this was the guy that was designing it, to show me, because I had to pass it. Okay, I said, run it. Sure enough, and he could turn this thing up to incredible cutting speed. I mean, the saw would be doing 6,000 strokes a minute, 100 times a second, up and down. And I said, yeah, that's nice. It's nice work. But you know, if you do it like this, and you have a crank pin here and a slot in the saw, you can have the saw up through here and then coupled by a wire. There is so little reciprocating weight, you can forget all the balance weights. It's cheaper to make. He went back and redesigned the whole thing. How long did I think of that? Must have taken me 3 or 4 minutes, right? And they won the competition made them a lot of money, right? So anyway, Don't test heads without a camshaft.
So let's get back to our golden rules, and we kind of skipped over air is heavier than you think. Keep the port velocity up, and avoid redundant cross-sectional areas. Let's talk about that in a minute.
Oh yeah, what did I call it in the book?
Well, you gave an example in your videos
yeah.
of how heavy air is so heavy.
Heavy, yeah.
Most people
Yeah.
don't realize how
No,
heavy
they don't.
it is.
I remember walking into a shop once, and it was a Sunday, and there was only guys on overtime there. And it was a cylinder head shop, and in the talk I had with the second in command there, and I said, well, really, we have to allow that air's got. I said to him, no, do you know how heavy air is? Expecting him to know, and I think he did, but he didn't have it in the units I could immediately recognize. And the guy on the CNC machine here, who's a racer, he says, well, air doesn't weigh anything. It's weightless. I said, no, it's not.
That's incorrect.
It's ridiculously heavy. You know, ask a whale how heavy water is. They have no idea until they come out of it. They don't even know they weigh anything until they come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's say, this is an example I got in the book. Let's say you've got a cube. It's 100 feet down one side, 100 feet up in the air, and 100 feet back. It's like a dice, 100 feet along each edge. Now, approximately, how heavy is the air in that cube? Now, you know, you've read the book. But how heavy do you think the air is in the cube? You know, the typical answer I get is 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 100 pounds. 150 is about the limit.
Tons. Many tons.
76,000 pounds. 38 tons. 38 tons of air in that cube. Does that sound like it light to you?
No.
Now let's talk about
Dash must have read the book too, because he got it.
Dash, you're cheating. You didn't know that before. Come on, admit it. If you hadn't read my book, what did you think of the book, by the way? Right? Let's hear it. I need to sell all the books I can to build engines here.
Yeah, there he fessed up. Said he cheated. He read the book. Good for you, Dash.
Yeah.
I've cheated too. So
what does the M stand for? Are you a Michael?
I don't see the M. Ah, that's his logo there.
Dash reciprocity.
Oh, Matt. Okay. Thanks, Dash. Gotcha. That makes sense then. Thanks for introducing yourself.
Oh, Matt. Yeah, right.
Hence the M.
Yeah. Anyway, 38 tons. So
air's heavy.
Yeah. In my book, I put my small block Chevy LS engine Chevy truck on top of that, and you can see how the Chevy weighs, what is it, about 2.25 tons?
Yeah.
About 4,500 pounds. I think it's a cab one, the short cab, not the crew cab, the extended cab, right? And so that cube of air is equal to the weight of what? I don't know, about quick, what's 2.5 into 38? Say 40, divide by 2, 20 tons. That cube of air is equal to about 19 of crew cab. 18, I remember it now. I worked it out. 18 trucks, right? Now we've got that air rushing down a port. Do you know how much port energy there is in a pro stock port when they shift gear at whatever their RPM limit is? 10,000, is it? Just as they shift gear. That's got the port energy of a very high-powered air rifle pellet, which will punch a hole through a piece of 2x2 on the 2-inch side. That's how much ramming pressure you have available if you get the port the right damn size. Port energy. How many programs, cylinder head programs, even mention port energy? How do you know you've got the port too big? It's when you port it to the extent that the flow, doesn't give you units that you can immediately use, but you can, miscalculation. You can use these units, but they're not final units in energy, right? If you multiply the flow times the velocity, that will give you the equivalent of port energy. Anytime you measure the cc's and it gets bigger and the flow goes down, you've just lost port energy. Now, what's port energy worth? Well, here's the amazing thing. This is one of those times where what is aerodynamically usually a bad problem for us pays off, right? How many times have you seen articles about Bonneville cars where they say, well, when you get to about 200 miles an hour, it's nothing to do with the engine, virtually. It's all about aerodynamics, right? And they'll say, look, if you want to double the speed of your car, you either half the wind resistance, half the area, or you have 4 times the power, not twice the power, 4 times, right? That's the resistance. Now, if you're doing port energy and you go up from 100 to 110 feet per second, the port energy goes up. Let's say it was 100% at 100 feet per second. You use that as your starting point. So we regard that as 100%, although there is no limit other than when we hit the sound barrier, right? So 100%. When you go up to 110%, you've increased it by 10%. But the port energy has gone up to 122 units. So we've increased the port energy by 22%. And it works the other way around. When you drop 10%, you lose over 20% of your port energy. So it's one of those things where it's real bad to be on the slow side.
Mm-hmm.
And within stupid limits, it's real good to be on the positive side because it goes up. Now, let's bring Darren back into the picture here. I love doing this because I try to get him on my show, but talking about it is the next best thing. He posted in one of his videos once, there are 3 very important things that he attends to when porting cylinder heads. Velocity, velocity, velocity. It's a bit like the realtors. It's 3 things you need to have: location, location, and location. And I think Darren put that very succinctly there. That is the sign of a guy who's delved into the subject, right? So, oh, by the way, Darren's got a site. What the hell is it? Put in Darren Morgan website, not website, YouTube channel in the search bar. You'll probably get it. I can't remember the guy that's running it, but this is it's not Darren's channel. He's the star of it, right? Darren's one of these guys where it's hard to convince him he shouldn't be either on the flow bench, on the dyno, or grinding, right? So he doesn't have much time to make videos and even less time to edit them.
So it sounds like you.
Yeah, sort of. So that's where we're at with that. So now.
So I'm looking him up right now. So we were talking about that. And how about the statement there on number 3, keep the port velocity up and avoid redundant cross-sectional area.
Avoid redundant areas.
Yeah. So talk about that in just a minute.
A redundant area is an area in the port which contributes little to nothing, and sometimes retracts from the port's ability to flow. For instance, the bottom of a port where the air is not flowing very much, it's not doing anything. Why is it there? All it's doing is robbing the cylinder of port energy and velocity, or rather velocity and subsequently port energy. right? Even if it adds to the flow, it may not be worth doing because you may increase the port 10%, but the flow only goes up 5%. Result, you're down on port energy. Now, most viewers of Cam head program, they don't tell you this. You know whose does? Of course you do. I told you to say this beforehand.
Coaching me.
Right, yeah, testing to see if you're still here, Bill.
I am.
Good, right. So anyway, now I tell you what I did. You know, I've been wittering on here. You can tell I'm enthusiastic, can't you? Or you should be able to. Bill is only one step behind me. God, that's sad for you, Bill.
I know. I always feel like that.
Sad.
But I'm trying to catch up.
Let Bill tell you about our iRock project. Right, this falls into line with the guys who want 80% want cheap engines, 20%, 18% want more expensive engines, and 2% want that killer deal. We've got a project that hits all of you, not at the same time, but all of it, absolutely encompassing it. Go ahead, Bill.
So last Saturday, I think, after we left the Dyno Engine Challenge, I took DV on a little side trip by my shop, which is right down the road here, called Fret Garage. And Fret Garage is a garage dedicated to high performance guitar repair and service. And we have everybody says, well, why Fret Garage? And so, well, obviously we're performing high quality work and performance mods on guitars.
Yep.
And got the idea from Jeff Beck's Guitar Shop album. If you look on his album, guys, look that up, the Guitar Shop album. He's got a guitar, this huge Stratocaster up on a lift in a garage, and he's working on it. I was like, man, I love that. So that's the big.
What's this guy's name?
Jeff Beck, English guy. You might have heard of him.
Yeah, I vaguely know that. Look, I got to tell people, my favorite instrument, two of them. Guitar.
And let me guess, the other one, bagpipes.
Yep.
I knew that.
If you've never been to Edinburgh and you've never seen the, what do they call it? Trooping of the Colours with the Scots, whatever they call themselves, it sends chills down your spine. I'm not using that as a phrase to just,
right.
It sends chills down your spine. Those guys, not only can they march in step, they can play the bagpipes like they've been blessed by God. You can go around either way, my dear.
Mrs. DV in the house.
Yep.
Just keeping us straight.
And guitar playing, right? One of my favorite guitar players was Tommy Steele.
Mm.
He was a rock star guy back in the early 60s and Londoner. And toward the end of his career, he was reckoned to be in the top 5 guitarists in the world. And I remember one performance which they showed live. He sang Greensleeves, but he played the part of the guy who wrote Greensleeves. That was King Henry VIII. Can you believe that? He wrote the words to that.
Yeah.
Right? And during his presentation, he put in the emotions that King Henry VIII is what you would suppose he'd have. And he played that guitar and sang the words. And by the end of it, he was in tears. So was half the audience. I have never seen an audience influenced that much by a performer. I mean, talk about a standing ovation. There was nobody sitting down in that. I mean, and he had to wipe his eyes like this after and recover from that. That is the most memorable piece of music I have ever heard, period. And I've heard some awesome music in my time. I'm very picky on it, right? They're usually female singers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe guys can sing the national anthem. I think women were picked by God to sing the national anthem. I've heard some national anthems sung by some of the great female singers that are simply astounding. Now, I guess a lot of you don't think about this as much as I do. I had to fight to be an American citizen, right? I didn't wander in over a border here. I went through all the routines and everything like this. Here's the funny thing. I had to prove I could speak English. The tests they gave me, I could have corrected. Right? No, that's not how it's spelled. No, this isn't the right way around for the phrasing on it. It's like the tests they do when you've got to know certain things when they have a driver's test, right? I could have corrected that as well because there's a couple of things wrong. Oh my goodness. And I told my daughter at the time, I said, when she took her test, do not answer what you know to be right here. You answer what they think is right. Right. Because you'll get a negative thing. I said, and the last thing I said was, whatever you do, don't speed.
No.
Guess what?
They frown on that.
Guess what?
She
failed from speeding. But Dad, it was an open road. I don't care, right? She said it was empty. How fast did you go? I went about 55. What was the speed limit? 40. There's where you failed, right? Not as bad as my wife.
So we're talking about Fred Garage. Go ahead.
There's 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. She was stopped for doing 60.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, boy, I had to go to court with her to plead insanity.
So Davey's at Fret Garage with me, and we're in the front checking out the guitars. Let's walk in the back here, David. And in the back is the cars, the garage part, in addition to the guitars. And I'm a Chevy guy and big second-gen Camaro especially. And so David fell in love with my 1970 Rally Sport. But over in the corner, I've got a 1979 C28, and been talking with David about using it as a basis for a project where we go through and do some incremental testing and improve it.
That's the way to put it. Incremental testing. Yes. Yeah.
And just build it as we go.
I think they'll tell them. I think they'll like this.
So what we're considering is taking the car and doing some incremental testing as we go and building a track car, something we can go out and race.
Initially, an entry-level track car where the emphasis on having a good time, having a reliable car, and not spending a fortune. Now, this is always the goal of racing, right? 99.99% of the population who want to go racing can't afford it, right? The only reason when I wanted to start getting into racing, my parents were the subject of World War II destitute, right? My dad lost all of his property. They had to move out of the country on a military deal. Although my dad wasn't in the army, he was an attachment to the Secret Service. Not any big key person like Ian Fleming. I say all he did, but you needed hundreds of people who did this, was people who were trying to get into the country from abroad had to pass an interview by him, right? And if he suspected anything wasn't kosher,
a little dodgy maybe,
he would be handed on to the next guy who was the next step up the ladder. And if he didn't think anything was kosher, and this is after they started in-depth checking, he was handed on to the third person. And if he didn't think anything was kosher, the guy went to prison. Right? That's more or less how it worked. Well, my dad was the first to have to weed these out. Right? So that job was essential, but it was in Morocco, and the pay was commensurate with the prices of goods in Morocco. So although he could buy more in Morocco than he could in England, he was actually earning less money than he could do in England.
Right.
And of course, having a woman do a job in Morocco is no, not then. Right? I mean, she had a problem not wearing a
Right.
But fortunately, I don't know how this came about, but my mom and dad became pretty good friends with the Sultan of Morocco, the boss, right? So if they had any problems, they said, call so-and-so. And magically, his problems disappeared, right? In fact, I got a story there. My mom got a horse from the Sultan for nothing. My dad bought a horse from him. It was a nice horse. I remember that horse. One thing I remember, it was one of the most handsome stallions I'd ever seen. Now, I'm only about 5 years old, but it struck me. Here's this beautiful horse, muscles rippling down its chest. It was magnificent. Anyway, my mum wanted a horse. Now, my mum's a horse rider, right? I think she'd been riding horses since she was about 12-ish, and she would have been 28, 29. During the war, when she was working on a farm, she also rode a horse because that was cheaper than gasoline. And there was plenty of food for the horse. It's called grass.
Mm-hmm.
And England is full of grass because guess what? Every fourth day it's not raining. How do we tell the weather forecast in England? If it's cloudy, if it's misty, it's not going to rain. If it's not misty, that's because it's raining.
Yeah.
Now, anyway, so went and bought this horse, went to get a horse from the Sultan, whatever it is. And he's got about 50 of these horses in this corral, and she's looking and looking and looking. And she sees this mare. It's a bit smaller than my dad's horse by quite a bit, but it's commensurate with my dad was 6'1" and my mom was 5'4", right? So it was like a 5'4" horse going with a 6'1" horse. It fitted her. And she says, well, I'll have that one. He said, I'll tell you what, if you ride that one, you can have it for free.
She got it, didn't
really?
she?
She said, it's been green broke probably 20 times so far. It stays broke for about a week. Most riders don't stay on it for more than a couple of minutes at the most. And they're riders. They're not just riders. They do this for a living. And my mom said, I get this from my dad long after. My mom said, well, maybe they're not treating the horse right. He said, oh, we know exactly how to treat horses. And she says, okay, if I can ride it, I get it for nothing. Right. So, yeah. So she picks up a saddle, carries it over to where the horse is, and puts it down on the ground. And she starts talking to the horse. Right. And then stroking its back and things like this and getting hold of its mane, talking to it. Then she picks the saddle up, puts it on the horse. Well, it fidgets a bit because it doesn't like a saddle. It thinks, oh, I know what's coming. Straps it up, right? Walks it round. Well, 45 minutes later, she rides that horse out of there. She never had one instance of it bucking until it wasn't an electric train, one of these, the fastest diesel trains they had by the end of the war, or just before the end of the war, went by going probably 100 miles an hour. You don't hear them coming. And she was riding right by the track, and then that train went by, spooked the horse.
Mm-hmm.
My dad couldn't catch up with her on his horse, a bigger horse, right? And it probably ran until it couldn't run anymore. It was so scared. My mom didn't fall off it, right? But she had to console the horse after because it scared it so much.
Mm-hmm.
But never had any problem with that horse. But anyway, that's not. Oh, I'll tell you what, horsepower. Let's talk about horsepower, right? You have a 1 horsepower engine, a 1 horsepower horse will outwork it. Absolutely no problem at all. You see, here's the thing. A 1 horsepower engine usually delivers the power from a lot less weight than 1 horse.
Right.
So here we have this 1 horsepower engine in a car, and it probably weighs, it could be a 2-stroke thingy, probably weighs 50 pounds. A 1 horsepower horse, a genuine 1 horsepower horse, probably weighs 1,200 pounds. Now you ask them to go up a hill. The 1 horsepower in the car has to pull up a weight that is commensurate with a 1 horsepower engine. That might be another 150 pounds. That's 200 pounds. This horse with its 1 horsepower has to pull itself up the hill before it considers any load.
Right.
1,200 pounds, right? But you get them on the flat, whereby they're not lifting any of their weight. It's sheer traction does it. A 1 horsepower a 1 horsepower cart will out traction and out pull a 1 horsepower horse by a huge margin. If you think about this, tractors that pull a plow through the ground are typically 40, 50 horsepower and a lot of foot-pounds and geared down, right? 6 Shire horses can pull that plow. No problem at all. They don't even know it's behind there. 6. They don't have to be stallions. The female ones will do it just fine, right? Just fine. So your 1 horsepower is, first off, it was underrated, then first off, it was overrated, then underrated. When what's his name did the the guy that came, James Watt, came up with measuring the horsepower. What he did was he found 1 horse could do 22,000 foot-pounds per minute. In other words, that's like moving 22,000 pounds load 1 foot in 1 minute, or 1 pound, 22,000 feet in 1 minute, or any multiple of that there, equivalent to, well, of course, the horse can't pull either ends of the range, it has to pull where it's best. So the horse goes around on these treadmill things, obviously it pulls at its best. You want to get the best out of your horse or pony because they're working all day, right? It's hard work pulling that thing around 12 hours. And boring because you keep on visiting the same route. It's not a scenic route. So the horse came out at 22,000 foot-pounds. He says, somebody may have a horse more powerful than ours. So he made 1 horsepower, 33,000 foot-pounds, right? And it still isn't what a horse can do. If you put your horse on a dynamometer where it didn't have to move its own weight, you just extracted the power from it, it's way more than 1 horse. Right.
Yeah, Don was asking, is there a horse dyno?
No, but you can make one real easy.
Figure it out.
Right. Yeah. All you've got to do is have 2 rollers instead of 1 and cover it with a
like a treadmill.
Like a treadmill.
Yeah.
Right. And see so they can use both feet. Right. Horse dyno. Let me tell you, I've made some estimates of that, and I think your typical horse makes at least 4 horsepower.
Interesting.
I did an experiment with me in my younger days. I ran up the stairs of a 120 horse, no, an 80-story skyscraper, right? And the load is my weight, right? All I had to do was go from the bottom to the top. I developed 3/8 of a horsepower. No freaking way. I wasn't putting out 3/8 amount of work. Well, I was, because I couldn't do any excess work. Right. With an engine, you've got this much power, but you've got to do work on something else. With a horse, he's got this much power only to work on her. Right? So horsepower, it's not until you get to big numbers that it starts to reflect big power, right? If you've got a 100 horsepower car, it's probably equivalent to what 30 horses can pull up a slope. So technically, it's only 30 horsepower, but you're taking the weight of the car out of it. It's what work it can do attached to it. Right. So anyway, there you got a bit of information on horsepower. Right. So, and here's the other thing. So many people have dynos that are real friendly. Ours isn't. And I'll tell you why it isn't. 2 reasons. 1, EPA approved it. 2, Cosworth has about 6 or 7 dynos. My dyno matched every one to within 1 or 2 horsepower on their engine. with their guy standing by while I was doing it. Right. So I'm very confident that if Cosworth's right, we're right within 1 or 2%. So take that, stick it up your jumper. Right. Anyway, where are we? We're at 8:56 now. Quick, finish off on our project.
So we're gonna
And we'll let
this-
it go a bit longer tonight,
Yeah,
because
so-
people have heard me rattling on. Now they need to hear.
Well,
you
that's
rattle.
why they're here. They're not here
Well,
to talk to
that's-
me. They're here
well,
to hear
You've
you.
got some good stories to tell.
Well, we've got Fret Garage right up the street. If you guys have any questions, as I alluded to earlier, you can email me at Fret Garage. That's like a guitar fret, FRET garage @gmail.com. And I'll get those to David or Andy. We'll take the look through them. Just don't inundate me with a ton of questions. Just a
No
couple.
more than 250 words and no more than 2 questions.
2 questions. Please put it in
If they're
the
251,
line.
they get put on the
Yeah.
side.
Put it in the subject line so I know to be looking for it, and don't throw it in the spam folder. But there at the Fret Garage, we've got some Camaros.
Yep.
That we're gonna do some testing.
We're going to
on.
bring back to life. Now,
Yes.
the nice thing is for their age, they're in pretty good condition.
Oh, absolutely.
They've suffered sunburn more than anything, right? Wouldn't you say that would be the thing?
Yeah.
So visually, they look like they're old. And funny enough, you can open the hood and the engine's like 10 years younger than the rest of it because it's not been out in the sun.
The 70's almost as old as me. Not quite, but I was
Yeah.
about 5 when the 70 came out.
Right.
But yeah, we've got the Camaro projects. We're going to be looking at doing some stuff with those and
Yep.
incremental testing. We'll have Andy involved, Union Motorsports Garage. And if I did mention earlier, please check out his video update from the Dyno Engine Challenge last week. He dropped it, I think, Monday, and it is a synopsis of what went on, and you'll see myself and Andy and Brian Salter and DV and all the competitors.
And don't you think he had a hell of a job editing it down?
Oh, he told me there was so much footage; it's
Yeah.
unreal.
Because
The
it took
footage.
him a week to edit it.
Yeah, we had
Normally
the
it
live
takes
feed
him
going.
20 minutes to
Yeah,
edit a
yeah,
video.
he was.
And when I say 20 minutes, I mean 20 minutes or usually less.
Yeah, he's really good at
Right.
that stuff.
The guy is a master of editing.
But check out that video. But we're going to get together and do some work on these cars and have a good time with it, and share the results with you guys. Do a series of videos, and it'll be a great project. And we're going to go racing. How much fun is that?
Oh, just quickly tell people how you're finding your membership useful. Now, forget about me getting you on the show, because
that's just extra bonus.
That was a bonus because A, you were good at explaining things, and B, you came over very succinctly, right? So that's due to a skill of being in front of a camera that other people may not have.
Well, that's my training in a live music situation.
Well,
being a
there we are.
musician.
Yes. And I didn't know that you appeared live until after I'd asked you to.
Right.
Or after I considered asking you.
Right.
So
you can't embarrass me. I've been embarrassed so many different ways over the years.
I'm not trying to embarrass you, but you had that about you, that you had the elements of an entertainer.
Well,
that's what we need, right?
I'm like you. I love people, and I love the topic we have here. I mean, what more fun can you have than talking about
with your
performance, sir?
With your trousers on. There's no more fun you can have
with your trousers
on, right?
Than doing some.
Oh, and I tell you, next time I'm on, you want me to tell you about the women drivers I've had drive for me?
Pretty good, huh?
I've got some tales about women drivers.
I bet.
Right. So, and no, they're not what you think. I never had a relationship with any of them, except they were very good friends. Why? Because they were good drivers.
All right, so Judge is already trying to pair us up in a race the Mustang against the Camaro. So that might be down the road. David to blow my doors off. Right
now. If I proceed at the rate I'm going at, and Bill proceeds at the rate I would like him to go at, the Camaro will not stand a chance. it's going to be 1,000 horsepower versus 600, right? So I would go down the track, complete with all my cup holders and radio and telephone and everything else with 1,000 horsepower just up front there, right? And you think I can't get 1,000 horsepower from a 4-cylinder? It won't be the first time, right? Nowhere like the first time. Nissan Lancer. Who made the Lancer?
I don't know. I don't have a clue. I know that I know the car, but I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
I
it
think
Mitsubishi?
Mitsubishi Lancer, yeah. Right. 2 liters, 1,172 horsepower at the wheels. But forget about the dyno. At the track, it shut down everybody so bad they couldn't believe it, right? Including the pros, right? The last one that gets shut down was a factory Nissan 6-cylinder, supposed to make 1,800 horsepower. Really, right? That was a friendly dyno. We made 1172 at the wheels on slicks, uncorrected, on a humid day in Florida. Not exactly good for showing rear wheel power, right? If we'd have put different tires on it and pumped them out hard, if it had hooked up, we would have probably shown well into the 1,200s, at least another 100 horsepower. But we ran it on the dyno as we ran it on the track.
So VGHCX Dodge Lancer. Was it Dodge?
Tim, where? Yeah,
At the
that's
very
right.
bottom.
No, not a Dodge Lancer. It was a Japanese car.
So it's Mitsubishi.
No, it might have been. What's the one that starts with C?
Anyway,
that was more than yesterday ago, so I've forgotten. So anyway, look, when it comes to racing, at the end of the day, forget there's nothing better than cubic inches. That's not so. There's nothing better than a turbo. Trust me. Whatever you can do with a normally aspirated engine, you can do better with a turbo engine at half the size. Right? Absolutely proven by the aircraft industry in World War II. Got a turbo? It's like having an extra pair of 50 cals. Right? The Thunderbolt, prime example. That Pratt & Whitney R2800. Oh, if you listen to any videos and they pronounce certain words wrong, you know it's been fudged by AI voice overlay, right? Like they're talking about these 50 caliber guns deliver a whole bunch of lead. And this is a Pratt & Whitney R2800. No, anyone who's into this knows it's a Pratt & Whitney R2800, 2800, right? There's things like that that they don't pronounce right. Can't think of any others, but you know, I spot it as soon as I see it.
Yeah.
Right. So these voice enhancers, these voice AI voice implants, they work pretty damn good. And of course, the guy may be showing the video, the text, because you've got text to voice. Now, the voice machine doesn't know the difference between lead and lead, right? It looks more like lead, but we know it's lead. Now, it should be pronounced, it should be spelled LED. But English, the spelling is
we did all that
crazy,
confusing stuff.
Crazy,
yeah.
Right? I've heard people say that English, spelling-wise, is one of the most difficult languages to learn. However, almost all the people, and I get people who speak English from all over the world, different base language, and I've never heard one say that English, the common thing they say is English is the most explanatory language and descriptive language. For instance, I heard that Japanese engineers have to learn English because Japanese doesn't cover what the English language will cover. in engineering. That's what I heard. Anybody out there who's a Japanese engineer and trained in Japan back in the days, 50s, 60s, let me know if I'm wrong. Anyway, guys, anything more to say?
I don't think so. Had some good comments tonight. If you have any questions for DV, you can shoot me an email. I'm Bill. You can shoot me an email over at the Fret Garage right up the street.
Hang on.
Okay.
Silver Fang is not a Chrysler Conquest. It's definitely a Japanese car built in Japan and called whatever the Lancer is called, a something Lancer, which is a Japanese, something is a Japanese name. Forget Dodge, Chrysler, Chevrolet, any other name. It's only a Japanese
I'll tell you
name.
what, let's figure that out before next next live show.
We will,
We'll figure it out. But thank you guys for the comments.
I'm going to call the guy that owned the car, right?
It's a great idea.
See if I can get him on here.
Yeah, it'd be great.
And if I can get him on here verbally, I will see later on if we can't get him on visually as well, because he's a very interesting guy. He's one of the few guys I know who's got now got the budget to spend what he wants on a race car, right? If he had to spend a 7-figure number on a race car, and he knew that 7-figure invested right would win him a championship in a difficult class, not an easy one. He's in for the challenge, right? And he'd have a magnificent car, and it's not because he buys everything. On his car, he worked hard. He did the wiring on it. I cannot believe anybody did wiring so neat. It was prettier than the Mona Lisa. Oh, way prettier, right?
So, guys, if you have any questions for David, feel free to shoot me an email. In case you weren't here earlier, I'm Bill. I am your member representative. David has invited me, and he and Andy got together and said, why don't we get Bill to start coming on the show?
Yeah, so Bill's going to be here regularly, unfortunately.
Sorry, guys. So shoot me an email, Fret Garage, FRET Garage @gmail.com. I'll go through those. Hold it till max of the 2 questions, please. And I'll start perusing through those and get together with DB here and Andy, and we'll see what interesting things you come up with.
Yeah.
And let me know if you are a channel member, and if you aren't, please join, because I'm telling you guys.
The one channel members I've spoken to so far have said generally in the direction that we appear to be the most outward going members channel in terms of rewarding members for giving them not going that extra mile, but going the extra 2 miles.
Yes.
Well, maybe 2 feet instead of 1 foot. But so, like, we're organizing all these challenges and things like that. When we get that big enough, we are going to try and get the winners, pay the winners to come down and see their stuff done. But that's a promise that can only be held when we get the response, right? We've got to be able to get the response.
And Kurt summed it up nicely. Hit the like button, guys. Like, subscribe, comment. If you can hype it. That lets everybody know that we got a great channel here.
YouTube channel.
Yes, that's very important. Hit the like button. See, we've got 40 likes today, and I know we've had more than 40 people on here because I can see how many viewers we've had at any given moment. So hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already done it. It doesn't cost you anything. If you would like to become a channel member, it's very affordable.
When you finished, I want to say one thing.
Yes,
to
please.
This here.
Jump in.
Finished,
yes, sir.
No, go on, finish.
No, I was just pumping the channel.
Okay. Man. Powder Puff saves the day. Hey, these girls who raced weren't Powder Puff drivers. They were serious man annihilators, right? I don't employ Powder Puff girls. They don't have the testicular fortitude to be good drivers. They don't have any testicular fortitude, do they? No, they don't. Okay, but you know what I mean, right? All of the drivers I've ever had, if they had any testicular fortitude, they'd be bigger than their boobs, right? What's a life worth? As far as they're concerned, not enough compared with winning the race. Seriously. These girls would, with no second thought, their main goal was to make sure they always outbraked you so they could show how pathetic you were. And they put their life on the line to do it. So don't rate them in the Powder Puff group. Go.
So like, subscribe, comment, check out Unity Motorsports Garage. Did the same thing there. His latest video is great. We've got some great videos in the planning stages. And thank you guys so much for joining us today, and all the members that joined. You got Tim and Mayor there, and Silver Fang and Judge, and all the members that are on here today.
Yep. And I just got just one last thing from me, and then you can finish off.
Yes, sir.
I've only got one step to go in terms of obtaining stuff. I'm waiting for Jeff at Rodex to send me how much I owe him on the shipping.
Okay.
Because we didn't get that sorted out. So when I get the email from him, I did expect it like a couple of days ago, but with all of the stuff he's going on, right, it's in the middle of the season.
And everything's set up in the shop to get the heads all divided up and get them out.
So I'm expecting the heads sometime next week. So I'm going to email him and say, what's the status on the heads? I know he's got them packed. And I can't think that I'm missing anything here. I think he's just forgotten to tell me how much it is to ship them.
Okay.
Right. He's been good enough to let me have the heads at basically his cost. But I got to pay the shipping, right? So that's where we're at the moment. What else? Anything else?
I think we
got the valves. One thing I thought I would do is I just realized that in some areas like Gunnar in Iceland, some simple things like the damn springs to use flow springs might not be available there. You might have so I'm going to put all the heads in with 2 springs, 2 retainers, 2 valves, and the head.
So ready to go.
Right, ready to go. Right, so that's what you do. You unpack them very carefully because you may have to ship them back.
Grabs David's book.
Yeah, you got to get my book, or you will need to get my book. Right.
Even if you're not in the head challenge.
Yeah, you
get the book.
Get the book.
Yes.
And then you can ask questions from it.
Yes.
What else? The people in the group. Oh, I need one more name and address, and I'm going to email the guy. Right. He sent in his entry on a day where I was in with a chronic migraine and a backache. So I've got to send his stuff out. So if one of you is missing, and I don't know if I sent it or not, I'm aware that it's not sent. If it's not sent, I am unaware if it is already sent. Does that sound like somebody with a brain problem?
You get a pass on that.
Okay. Anyway, I want to thank Bill for coming over.
Thank you for having me, David.
And I want him to close the show.
Thank you guys so much for being here. Live with David Vizard. My name is Bill Jones. You can shoot me your questions at fretgarage@gmail.com. That is fret, F-R-E-T, as in a guitar fret, fretgarage@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much. You've been a great crew today. Had some good questions. Sorry we couldn't get to everybody, but email your questions. We'll see you again next Friday. Tell us bye, David.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you,
That's
guys.
the standard response. Cheers. That's what I put on the bottom of my emails and my telephone call. Cheers. Take care.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so much. And we are out.
Let us finish the thing. Okay, guys, we really are going out now. Here I go. I'm pushing the
Thank
button.
y'all.